It was the number 3 revenue producing account in our company. And we didn't win the business. And I was 8 months pregnant and due to deliver our second child.
Welcome back to Tales from the Field. Today, I have a fellow George Michael fan, Wham aficionado, sales powerhouse, Natasha Beach. Welcome. For those that may not know you, who are you? What do you do in sales?
Thank you, Amy. It's an honor to be here. And hello, everyone. I'm Natasha Beach. I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm amazed to say I have been in sales for almost 30 years. I started my career in tech sales. I moved to the people side of the house, and now I am still on the people side of the house. I'm a senior account executive with Sounding Board, a tech-enabled coaching platform.
Being in the game for nearly 30 years, you probably have some stories. You probably have some lessons learned. And when you think back, and let's be honest, sales is a journey. The highs are the highest. Like, it's the best feeling in the world. And the lows really kick us in the tail. I find that when the lows hit my life, I question everything. It's like the worst feeling. And oftentimes it's because I've gotten in the way of myself. And I think that we could all agree that there are many times in our sales careers where we get in the way of ourselves, intentionally or not. When you think back on this particular scenario, what is one of the situations where you got in the way of yourself? You made a mistake. You took a little stumble.
Amy, so perfectly said on so many levels. And I just have to say, I think you hit the nail on the head saying it's a journey, because I have sales fails every week. And that's okay, because clearly you and I both have had long careers in this profession. But to your question, when I think of a defining fail or an epic fail or the biggest thing that I can think of in my career, I had been working with a client that had been a client of my company's for many years. I think 25 years at the time I was personally selected to handle this relationship. So it was a big honor. I did great things with the account for many years, built strong partnerships, expanded the value of the contract that we had with them, got them to renew. And then we were up at another major renewal point, and we didn't win the business. Everyone was shocked, including me. I didn't see it coming, and I was blindsided. So as we start to, that's the shell of the story. As we start to peel back the onion, I'll give you the whys and what I learned from it.
Been there, felt that, done that, and it sucks. I want to quantify or qualify this a little bit before we dig into more of the layers of said onion. Give us a little bit of color around this deal. So how much was it worth? How much time had you already invested in it? Give us a little backdrop so we can feel that angst with you.
This was a federal contract.
Oh, boy.
So it was a multi-million-dollar contract, and the way that they contracted were for periods of years with options to renew each year. So my job was each year to help them renew and spend the money. And then we were at a point where we had to redo the entire contract. So we all, as a company, felt comfortable. But ultimately, I was the sales rep. I owned it. I was the quarterback that was leading everything on the renewal. So it was a big deal. It was the number 3 revenue producing account in our company.
How do you get the news? So you've been working on this bad boy, and when it's a multi-million-dollar deal like that over years, it's not like you're just dealing with one person, or maybe you were and that's the lesson. I don't know. But you have contacts that you're communicating with. How do they tell you, sorry, you're not the chosen one?
Great point. Couple things, too, to add to the pain of the story. I was 8 months pregnant and due to deliver our second child while I was working on this massive contracting response. So, I had a toddler at home. I was killing myself at night to work on the response, for contracting. And you're right. We had a lot of allies in the account. So when we found out, which was through the contracting office, actually, because we did have allies that were gunning for us. What we didn't know, and here's where the nugget is that the person who had owned the account before and had now gone off and started her other company had come in to the account and was working with other people, unbeknownst to us and unbeknownst to our contacts and friends in the account. And so...
Oh, no, she didn't.
Oh, yes, she did.
Give me this person's number. I'm kidding. All right. So she comes in and she undercuts you.
She undercut us. Yeah. And what a lesson though, right? I mean, it just goes to show you that no matter how comfortable you think you are, no matter how strong you think your relationships are. I mean, some of these people that I worked with, I'm still friends with today. I'm still in contact with today. We send each other Christmas cards. It was a good partnership, but it just goes to show, especially in a big, large, complex enterprise level account, that there's always moving parts that you have to be aware of and you can't afford to take your eye off the ball for a second.
This is going to be such a good one to dig into. I'm kind of geeking out a little bit, not because you went through this, but like there's so many things to talk about. I have to ask you, how do they tell you it's not you? And how do you find out the ghost of Christmas past, AKA this woman, this undercutter, this silent assassin, comes up and takes the business from you? Paint that picture for us.
I have to be honest, I don't remember exactly who we heard the news from, because obviously, it's a very formal contracting process. So we were notified through that. But then also our friendlies on the inside notified us and let us know as well. And remember, I'm 8 months pregnant, ready to pop. I think when we got the news, I was just about to head out on maternity leave. I don't remember the details of the delivery. My son, I remember, not the delivery of the news. But, I will say, and there is a happy pivot that we will get to that, I think it led me to some new jobs. I was not let go. I think my company knew what I did in terms of bring value to them. I chose to leave the company because, again, this was my biggest client. It was what I did for multiple years. The territory that they wanted to put me into just wasn't a fit or a match for my passions at the time. So it led me to other opportunities that I don't regret at all. I think that's one of the things that I'd love to talk about more if we have a chance is it's not a fail if you find the win. And I definitely think I found the win.
So you fast forwarded to the end of the story. I want to go back and dig into some of the meat around the story. So regardless of how you found out, ultimately you left off of your own accord. So it's not like this happened and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, Natasha, guess what? Welcome to the world, your baby son. And by the way, welcome to a different world. You're no longer working here. That did not happen to you.
No, thankfully.
How long after this happened did you resign? And what did you do after the fact to try to recover from this particular loss?
I think it was probably a year to a year and a half. Because again, I loved this company. I loved what I did. In fact, another happy part of the story is my sales leader at that company actually recruited me to come work for her when she went to another company later on. So again, no bridges burned, no bad feelings, just a big kick in the gut because it just hurt. I mean, it was a loss of revenue to our company and a loss of face, candidly, to myself, I think, and to the company. So I was just mulling on that. I forgot the second part of your question. If we could go back to make sure I answer what you were looking for.
Something I've got to work on. I am notorious for asking lots of questions in one. So let me calm myself down and just stick to one at a time. But I think that there's something really important in the fact that when we lose, right, there's always a winner and a loser. And maybe that's unpopular to say, but it's the truth. Welcome to life, ladies and gentlemen. It's what we do in those moments of loss that really are defining moments, our character building moments, our tells, as I like to say. What did you do to recover? What did you do to stand out to that sales leader where you didn't just get overwhelmed by the emotion of loss, that you didn't have bridges burned because you acted like a petulant child? And many people do. What did you do, Natasha, so that you still felt the sting, but you used it as an opportunity to get better versus getting worse?
I have to really credit my sales leader at the time because interestingly enough, one of the things that we were selling to this client was sales coaching and sales training. So it would be pretty ironic if we weren't modeling the behavior. So we did what we call an after action report. That's what they do in the military. When you have something happen, you know this, you're a military brat. That's how we connected. You do an after action report to really understand what went wrong, what went well, what will you do differently next time. So we had our morning, we talked about it. We made a plan, for how could we as a company learn from this and how would we go forward? And I think that was everything because exactly right. I think it preserved good feelings amongst the team. And again, like I said, those relationships continue to this day.
How did you respond to them to try to keep the door open, to try to understand, to try to recover? And ultimately in that, and here I am asking more than one question again, but it's part of this. How did you find out that you lost it to our silent assassin?
This was a while ago. This is 11 years ago. So, the time machine, I wish it could give me the crystallization. Maybe it's, how we block certain things out. I don't remember the specifics of finding out. But what I do remember is that we had a similar thing with the client because the people that were our day-to-days that were there, we had a strong friendship with. Again, these are people I still send Christmas cards to. So they commiserated as well. They couldn't believe it. They were blindsided also. But one of the unique things about this account is that our key buyers changed almost every year to 18 months because they were rotating people in and out. We had our core, we had our newbies. They got to some of the newbies, but our core friendships and partnerships remained the same.
What did you do after that to make sure that you wouldn't have to go through that again for the other accounts that you were working on? What were some of the actionable items that you immediately corrected or tried to immediately correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really reminded me of one of the things that I learned in my sales training over the years, which is account planning. You really need to understand who all the players are. You can't just think that you've got one friendly in there and that is going to be your person. There need to be multiple levels, and it's not necessarily related to power or position. It's different people. It's different eyes and ears. Just like you navigate in an organization that you work in and you have different people that you build relationships with and alliances with, you need to do the same thing in an account so that you're constantly, in the know, part of the order of operations, and have that intel.
What's your favorite way of account planning? Let's say you were to step in right now and either inherit an account or start anew with a brand new account. What are some of your go-tos that really help you canvas across, up, down, around the organization so that you're really strongly implanted into that organization?
You're reminding me that I need to really think about some of my more formal tools. I think because I've been doing this for so long, I do it somewhat informally. But I think in today's world that we live in, it's so much easier because we have access to so many great tools that are out there, Sales Nav, Zoom Info. And one of the big things that I love to do is really follow key accounts that I'm working with or prospecting to on Sales Nav and really understand who the different players are, how they think, what they're publishing, what they're posting, what's important to them, so that you really get into the psyche of the organization and can then, not in a creepy way, but be a partner to them to understand what's important, what's their DNA, how do they think. So it's a good way to find different people and then connect with them.
In Sales Nav, they have been elevating the things that they're doing, and I wish I had it back in the day. I mean, could you imagine?
Oh my gosh, no.
Let's think about today. You've been in the game a long time. As you think back on that, and knowing that that's like a really painful thing to go through, what are the top, 1 to 3 things that you do differently because of that?
Be humble. I think in sales, you got to be humble. When you're doing great and you're making the money and you're at the top of the board, it can all change on a dime. So always realize that, keep that humility. And I hope I was humble at that point, but it certainly was a humbling experience that it stays with me. And I think, the other thing, again, is a testament to the power of relationships. Own it. If something goes wrong, I loved how you called out, you were the one that had this. There were other people, I'm sure, that were part of it, but you were the quarterback. You were the salesperson. Own it, take it. Work with your leadership to say, how can I get better? I have a great sales leader right now, and he is phenomenal because he coaches with this mindset: win, learn, change. What were the wins on the call? What did you learn from anything that you didn't like, and what will you change? And having that type of a mindset is so liberating because you look for the wins, but you also know that it's safe to try to get better.
I think we're in such an interesting dynamic. You and I have been around for more than 1 decade in this game. And there's a really interesting thing happening with leadership that I'm sad to see because I think it promotes a lot of the wrong stuff that then ultimately has to get cleaned up one way or the other. But it's that safe space of stumbling without massive repercussion. I mean, it's one thing, look, if you make a mistake because you stole money from the company, well, yeah, you're going to get fired. But, when you genuinely make a mistake or you forget something because you're so excited. There was another episode where this person was working on multiple deals and a big part of their process was missed and it came back and it bit them. That's an honest mistake, and they knew it and they took ownership and accountability. And so I love that you're talking about the first thing is humility. That's how you can take accountability and ownership. But the second thing is owning the mistake, but we talk a lot about psychological safety, and it's a big term that I find that most people don't really understand the gravity of that term, but it's a big term. And part of what that looks like is you can be open here. I might be disappointed. I might be frustrated, but I am not going to cut you off at the knees and make your life a living hell because you made a mistake. Because how are you going to feel open to own that mistake? How are you really going to learn from that mistake? And how are we going to get better as an organization together as a result of that mistake? And that's the benefit of doing things like that. So kudos to your leader. And I love that you called that person out. Is there anything else?
I think, again, don't take it as a fail. Take it as a learning opportunity and a place to go someplace else. So ultimately, it led me to different things. And I think my career has been richer for it. I've gotten experience. Each experience that I've been part of since then has led me to the next one. So just like you opened our conversation with, it's a journey. Your sales career is a journey too. So realize that sometimes things happen for a reason. They may suck in the moment. They may have a huge impact. But if you are mindful about it, if you're open to the lessons and you're willing to take them and move on, you can use them to build something better for yourself. And that's been my case ever since then.
And I love those three things. Can you say it one more time that your leader said? So what did you win? What did you learn? And what was the third?
Win, learn, change. So what were the wins from the conversation? What did you learn? And what would you change? And I'm going to put it back on you because I saw this amazing post that I think you had today about how you have been putting in the work for, I think, about 2.5 years on a certain prospect. And you got the word. So you just lived your advice. It's all about putting in the work, doing the right thing, showing up every day, even when there are tough times, because those are the wins that I think sustain you through the tougher times or the fails.
I think it's really important for people to understand that when we lose a deal, it doesn't mean that it's all doom and gloom. And it also doesn't mean that your work is done. I mean, let's talk about George Michael for a second. Not every song that he put out was a hit. Did that mean that he stopped making music? No. So why should we stop making music when we have so many songs left to write?
I got chills when you said that. That's beautiful.
Do you want to slow dance near? Oh my gosh, Natasha, I love this so much. And I am so grateful that you literally, I said, would you like to do this? And you didn't even bat an eyelash and you said yes. So for anyone listening, I truly hope that this was helpful. Natasha, before we wrap things up, out of all the things that we talked about, is there anything that you really want to underscore that you hope that out of all the things, people really take away this 1, 2, 3 things?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. This was such a joy. And I would say just keep that mindset of growth. A growth mindset is the most valuable asset you can have in sales because it's not a fail if you learn from it. It's only a fail if you refuse to see the lesson and learn from it. So take what you can, keep going positively in the right direction.
Thank you from the bottom of my Natasha Beach love and heart. I appreciate you. For anybody listening, I truly hope that you took notes, that this was helpful. These are lessons to live by. And that's exactly what Tales from the Field is meant to do, is to break this down out loud together so that we can all get better together. So Natasha, thank you. Appreciate you. And until next time, y'all, this has been Tales from the Field. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
You've been in sales. I've been in sales. And in sales, it's a journey where we all have stumbled. And it is in these moments where we grow the most. So for anybody listening, I hope that this was helpful. This has been a Sales Feed production. If you're not familiar with all the fun things that they have up their sleeve, check out salesfeedmedia.com.